Hey everybody, this is Brittany here with Surfing Waves of Light, and today I am going to bring through some messages from the guides, the Arcturian Council, about a inquisition I received from one of my good friends, Brielle. She texted me today and she said, are you going to do a video on why there was a heat wave, fires, hailstorm, and tornado warning all in 48 hours? Cry, laughing face. WTF is going on? So in response to that beautiful message, I felt called to sit down and channel a message and bring through the guide so that we can get some insights on WTF is going on. All right, see you on the other side. Love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Greetings, dear beings. It is I, us, we, the Arcturian Council, and we are ever so pleased to be with you. We are happy to report that all is well in the ascension process, that everything that needs to happen is happening, and yet everything that needs to happen is also happening quickly. And so we want you to know that in the journey to pure unconditional love, when the North Node, when the compass has been set, when the destination has been confirmed to be of the most loving, most kind, most compassionate, and most abundant, generous dimension, that the journey to that dimension will also take on those qualities. And so many of you have wondered for years, why doesn't all the darkness come to the surface instantaneously and be healed? Why don't we just shut off the power and pull all the kids from the school system and quit our jobs and move into this dimension overnight? And this is a possibility for sure, but it would not be in the most loving vibration for all beings on this planet. And even though there are many of you out there who are actively and effectively highly evolved in your perceptions, we want you to know that there are still aspects of you represented in physicality that are not. And so even though many beings logically understand what these things mean, they do not yet have the embodied processes, the embodied lifestyle to truly take on a fifth dimensional state. Not to mention that there is many tools and magic, including the ability to fully use your consciousness and your mind, which must be developed in order to truly live out a fifth dimension consciousness. And so, while we see how your mind believes that it would be great to just transition overnight, this in fact is not a high frequency way to go about this process. The fifth dimension is a gentle place. It is a kind and a slow place. And as such, this journey is being guided by the soul collective who makes decisions on earth, informed by us, informed by our experiences with this being and all the other channelers and beings who connect into the higher realms, and the light workers here on earth, including yourself, who are constantly giving us feedback on how things are working and what's going well and what's not going well. And so that Soul Earth Collective takes all that information into consideration and in response uses the natural world to shake things up, to move the ascension process along, to guide your individual and collective lives toward this way of being, toward this consciousness. And so what is happening is through these gentle moments, through these intense storms and fires, through hail and upset, challenge and disregard, you are all being tested. We say that lightly. You are being given the opportunity, we would rather say, to show us where you are in consciousness, to show us where you are in your faith, in your trust, in your ability to overcome the battlefield that is the third dimension. For really, from our perspective, the third dimension is over. But yet it is the choices that each of you make every day that decides where your life falls between the third, fourth, and fifth dimension. And to break this down easily, if you are coming from fear, if you are waking up to your alarm because you're afraid, because you need money, because you're driven by these factors, if you're avoiding paying the government or any kind of energy that doesn't feel cohesive and peaceful, doesn't have that abundance and loving lift within it, then that is a moment of lower frequency consciousness. And so we on the higher realms are here to cradle that. And we want to do that through softness, because that is what the fifth dimension is. We're not going to shove it in your face or tell you a harsh truth. No, we want to slowly and gently put one thing in front of you and another thing in front of you and another thing in front of you, a synchronicity here, an upset there, all come together like a tornado to spiral you upward a little more and a little more, just as a parent would gently and relaxingly show a child how to do a basic task. This is what is happening. And as light workers, you are all absolutely on the front lines of this ascension, and you are absolutely paving the path for all others as they move forward. And so you are here in the jungle between third and fifth dimension, cutting down trees and pulling out the roots of this unsteady, unloving world, and you are moving it forward. And so we are tracking your pace and just letting you know that your pace is going to be slow, because you are doing something that has never been done here before. And so we just want you to know that everything is well, that you are well into the process, that you are well into the journey, into the processing, into the meat of this situation. And you are getting it, and you are understanding, and you are becoming more gentle with yourselves and more accepting of who you are and of who all those around you are, for their hang-ups and their greatness, for their faults and their light. And that is what a fifth dimensional society looks like. In the fifth dimension, a highly evolved being looks around and recognizes that each soul in their body is always experiencing exactly what they need to. Whether it be extreme weather, a challenge, an addiction, whatever it is perfect. And so they love them exactly as they are, from the distance which with they can love themselves. And that is all it is. And so that is truly how you can bring fifth dimensional consciousness here, is you can find more and more ways to love yourself. You can sit in deep reflection on your fears and ask the guides to show you why you're afraid to do this or that, why you feel insecure or insufficient. Because part of this third dimensional trap is the immediate granting of things, of wants. And that is why many times when you all are in this manifestation process, we do not grant you what you wish immediately, because we can see from our perspective that you all would benefit far more from patience and from trust than you would from $1 million or a house at the beach or anything in between. And it is not that we don't love you and we don't wish for you to have a house on the beach or have $1 million. It's just that you all locked into the ascension process. And in that commitment, you swore to your own soul that you would embody the principles of the fifth dimension. And sometimes when a third dimensional consciousness is still intact, as it is for all of you, money will exacerbate and in fact delay the embodiment of the qualities that are needed. For we promise you that you will never be homeless. You will never be without money. You will never be without the things you need. For your frequency of love ensures that you will always have the necessities. And yet, what we want to remind you is that the necessities are the base for your creation. And that is what your fears are here to guide you. They are here to guide you on your creation, on what you're here to create in this world, what you're here to birth. Many of you in this being's time and space reality, her age-ish, 10 or 20 years above and below, many of you are not being called to live life in the traditional way, whether that means you don't own a house or you don't have children or you don't have a traditional job. You are doing things in a different way. This is the reality you came here to birth. And you can, of course, do all those things and still birth your reality in. But what we are doing is ensuring that you are first embodying your soul contract, and then second, living out any other earthly desires that you wish to accomplish here. And that is because if you first ascend yourself into a higher consciousness, you birth your creation, you embody trust and willingness, openness, non-judgment. Anything else you create here will be of that frequency. It will be a much better experience for you. Your $1 million or your house at the beach will be filled with joy and love, community and abundance, not emptiness and unsurety or fear of loss, which will translate to whatever property, money, or experience you have. That lack of self-worth, that lack of self-confidence, whatever the lack is, will always translate. And so what we have seen from our higher collective is that it's best to start life in a small way, not having extreme responsibilities or extreme ownership or extreme anything, just keeping the life for a being on the light working path in a smaller realm so that the work continues to be focused inward and not outward on those things. For ownership in this dimension often comes with lots of care, and that care is not always understood. And so there are their own lessons within that. And all you each need to know is that exactly where you are is exactly where you're meant to be. And you will see every day your issues, your challenges, and the places that you're not yet in fifth dimension. And we want you to know that that's great and that's perfect and that's all you need. And so you do not need to worry whatever comes your path, hail, fire, dark smoky skies and storms, tornadoes, that as long as you are grounding and centering and doing your work, that it is all happening. It is all happening perfectly, and you all are well on the way. And so that is our message to caveat some of the more meat and potatoes of this message, which is around the physical reasoning for these tornadoes, these hailstorms, these smoky skies. So as we stated in our last video, the CERN quantum particle accelerator has been turned off. And this is significant for light workers. For the third dimension is a free will choice place. And as you agreed to incarnate here, you agreed to also be affected by the collective consciousness, the cultural soup. And so this CERN particle accelerator has had the opportunity over the past few years to influence the quantum realm. This is the realm of the matrix. This is the makeup, the software, the code behind the scenes. And so many of you have been looped into these very intense, low frequency timelines that have not allowed you to become your highest version, to fully express. And in fact, this has really worked for our ascension process because many of you have really deeply seen the low frequency aspects of yourself. And in a backward sort of way, this CERN particle accelerator has actually accelerated your healing, even though many of the beings who have produced this product have had negative intention. And yet we love these negative intentions because anytime a trigger comes to the surface, healing is allowed. And so it is ironic to us that the darkness is actually playing such a beautiful light role. And yet from the highest perspective, even we understand that at a subconscious and unconscious level, even the lowest frequency intentioned being is actually still working to heal this collective. And that is how strong the timeline you are on now is. There are alternate paths and there are different possibilities because of free will, but ultimately the train has switched. The momentum to the dark is over and the acceleration towards light is increasing. And so this particle accelerator shutdown is causing a lot of glitches in the matrix. Timeline converges. We've taught this being that calmness collapses timelines and anger accordions them out. And this is just an easy way to remember that upset and resentment and all of these unloving feelings held onto and not properly processed create external timelines where things take longer, and that is fine. And yet time is the only enemy you have here. How long you stay in resonance with an unloving thought, idea, or belief, that is the ultimate challenge. And so as you are moving through this time, many of the unnecessary timelines or of the timelines where you got stuck in anger, resentment, or some sort of low frequency consciousness, they were being predicated and repeated by this quantum interference. They were keeping you unable to move past these feelings. And yet in keeping you there, it forced you to really see them, to really stare yourself in the mirror as if you were on a deep psychedelic trip and understand your anger, your fear, your resentments, any of those things. And so now that that interference has been lifted, and with a clear understanding of yourself, you are all being broken free from this cage. The cage has been opened, and so the bird is flying free now, but it is a little confused. It's a little disoriented because it's been trapped for so long. For many years, this quantum accelerator has been one of many interferences that free will continues to allow. And that is part of the fun here, we would say, part of the game here. Because if you all walked into freedom tomorrow, you would not have earned it. Your soul would not have gotten the juiciness of the journey, which with it is here for. And yet, no suffering is required anymore. So you do not need to stay in that juiciness if it's over for you. And in fact, once you live out a timeline, the resonance moves away because you do not need it anymore, because you've squeezed all the juice out of that moment, out of that addiction, out of that resentment, out of that lack of confidence. You've gotten all of the information, all of the experience your soul needs, and then it is ready to move forward. And so with this CERN particle divider accelerator coming offline, there is a freeness and an openness. There is timelines that maybe were not as available before because the frequency was low, which are much more available. And as timelines converge, it can really mess with the weather. And so this tornado, this hailstorm, these smoky skies, this is all representative of timelines moving together. It literally shows you how different energies heat and cold are coming together, spiraling together. And that spiral is figuring out how to integrate all the other extended, unnecessary timelines into one, getting everyone where they need to be. And so this tornado extreme weather experience last night in this area actually prevented many unnecessary timelines from happening. Many beings were unable to meet up with friends, go out to dinner, or etc., or they were kept in a place that they were meant to be. For example, with this being, she was at yoga teacher training. They, at the end of class, started receiving the tornado warnings, and instead of all dispersing afterwards, this collective of very high frequency consciousness beings, all who are in this training with healing in mind, were kept together, were made to continue to interact with each other and talk. And these conversations were so important. These moments in time were so important, for there is a special purpose for this group, as there is a special purpose for each and every one of you. And as healing starts to take over these different places like LBI and wherever you are, this consciousness is growing like mycelium. The spores have been spread. That is all of you. But now they're coming together and finding each other. This network that was interfered with by the CERN particle collider accelerator is now being pushed to the back. Anything that was making those mycelium networks moldy or making them unable to grow, it has been pushed away. And since healing is on the forefront of many of you, we are seeing now that these timeline convergences are putting you exactly where you need to be. And so whether that be weather or any other kind of natural interference, that is what is happening. So you can expect weather and crazy experiences to continue to happen. But we want you to know, if that brings any fear to the surface, that all you need to do is ground and center. When you feel the timelines coming together, for this being, there was an auric experience. She started to feel her spirit lifting out of her body. And it happens because there is a curiosity, a wondering by her soul of what's happening in the collective. And that is how she experiences it. She moves outside of her body, goes up into the sky to see, and she could sense this opposing energy, these two timelines trying to figure out how they need to come together through this physical expression of a storm. And so we brought her back down. We told her, we guided her. She had drawn a flower in her class. We took her hand and placed it on the flower. She did not know why she had drawn this flower. She connected with that energy. She connected with the ground, and we guided her to help facilitate the storm coming down, becoming peaceful, not moving through a destructive pathway, but just the correct amount of interference that is needed to place each and every being on their highest collective timeline, which she and many others who are here to help with these kinds of things did. And so many of you are here when these high frequency shifts are occurring through extreme weather to help that energy nicely, gently move through the collective. That is your job. That is what you are here to do, whether it's through weather or people or places or things. You are here to gently, kindly, fifth dimensionally allow that energy to move through without destruction, because that's what fifth dimension does. Now, of course, will there be destruction in this experience? Absolutely. But the greatest destruction will be the shadow government of your mind, the parts of you that rule your conscious, the unconscious, the subconscious, that is actively dictating why you're not charging enough money for your services, or why you're giving away your time, or why you don't love yourself. That is the main destruction we are talking about here. And so as you continue to navigate that, as time becomes more extreme, all of these things, they're pulling you back. The smoke that's in the air has actually been a cover for each and every one of you experiencing it, so that you can slow down, because your lungs and your breathing are affected. It was giving you an opportunity to say no to the fast pace of summer, to the busyness of life, so that you could have time to integrate these collapsing timelines. For when they collapse, depending on your specific energetic makeup, they can feel ungrounding or they can feel easy. But the one that was experienced specifically here in the Long Beach Island area last night, it was a big one. For this is a place of healing. This is a place of shifting. This place is here to serve the New York City collective and many other very intense, very low frequency cultures that are keeping beings locked down in very large amounts of work so that there is no room for self-healing. And so this place, which has become very much full of beings from that area, this place is here to provide some grounding, provide some example, provide some possibility. And this is the work that needs to be done for each and every one of you who want to move ahead in ascension. You need to think of the being who is the least far away from that and understand that that is a reflection of something in your consciousness. And for example, with this Long Beach Island area, there is still a very deeply seated hard work consciousness here. And so the interaction of all these different beings is here to bring that to the surface, to try to help everyone understand that they can still make all of the money they need and attract the abundance they need without having to give so much of their soul and spirit away. And so this will continue to play out, and timelines will continue to converge, and meetings that need to happen and moments that need to happen to continue this acceleration will. And that is what this really is. It is an acceleration in time, because time is the enemy here. The more time you spend in the lower frequency dimension, the harder it is to break free. And so many of you have been feeling like time is out of control, and it is. But yet we are squeezing you to slow down. We are accelerating time to help you understand that it needs to be slower. The pace needs to come down. The value needs to come up. And the flow needs to be engaged, because in flow you always have not only what you need, you'll always have what you need even if you are completely out of flow, but also all that you need to birth in what you're here, your building block to the fifth dimension, your gift to give all those around you, all the other aspects of your unconscious. This is me. This is what I'm here to show. This is what I'm here to provide. And so any interference, any extreme weather, any weirdness that occurs is here just for that. It is to give you cover. It is to give you chance to slow down and to ask yourself the question, what am I here to birth? What am I here to do? And make sure that there is a balance between the third dimension, normal life, paying bills, going to work, interacting with society, and the self that is in alignment with pure unconditional love. And so we want you to know that everything is amazing, that you're doing amazing, that this is all happening accordingly, and all you need to do is follow those fifth dimensional principles of being soft and gentle on yourself, being quiet with yourself, on having time for yourself to reflect and shift, to make tiny shifts, creating 1% better type energy in any aspect that you feel is not aligned with the third dimension. And because time is accelerating so fast, you will see that change is inevitable. It's imminent as long as your consciousness consents to it. That is the only block you have right now. That is the only thing that is keeping beings from the fifth dimension. And so if we need to send in a tornado, fires in Canada with smoke affecting entire populations, earthquakes, volcanoes, birds, ocean waves, whatever we need to do to help you get there, we will. And we want you to know we will never hurt you. Yes, will pain and suffering sometimes be a part of the process? Absolutely. But the answer, the antidote to those energies is always going to be right there readily available. So it will not be an extended suffering, an extended pain. It will only be if your highest self sees it as necessary, sees it as important. And we will share, for example, with this being, last year, she surfed a second session the day after a strong hurricane with big waves of powerful caliber. She was not grounded and centered. She had drank coffee, which is not a great energy for her because it does not interact well with her consciousness, her energetic body, and her system. And so she went to take off on a wave. She missed. She fell hard on her longboard. The rail of a 9-foot, very heavily glassed board went into her thigh with the wave energy pushing it over onto her. She had bruising up and down her entire femur and could still walk, but was in a extreme amount of pain for a short amount of time. And that was last September. She's also had some other musculoskeletal issues. Nothing crazy, but things that have impacted her day-to-day life. And yet she realized last night during this tornado, during this very extreme auric experience that she was having, that all of that happened to get her there, because there was an important meeting place in time that this yoga teacher training was facilitating. And so we interfered with her physical body so that she would come into the awareness that she needed yoga to help heal, which she does. And it is a great practice for any of you who need to move through any kind of musculoskeletal issue. It is the physical antidote, we would say, and it also is a mental, spiritual, and emotional journey if you allow it to be. And so we want you to know, if there is pain, if there is suffering, if there is any kind of interference, it is only to get you where you need to be so that your mycelium can grow, so that the spores can connect, and this web of consciousness of light workers, of lovers, can come together to bring this into reality. So again, we just want to reiterate, you're not going to be in pain. You're not going to be suffering. It is just whatever we need to do to get your attention. And often when you're stuck in a loop, just as the ones that CERN were creating for each and every one of you, that energy can be hard to break. But we promise you also that if you continue to stay grounded and centered and present and always checking in with yourself as the Course in Miracles asks you to do, we will not need to interfere in that way. But this being is a human, we know each and every one of you is a human, and the triggers and the cultural soup and the interference, it will get to you. But that is all part of your life plan. That is all part of it. So you do not need to worry, because you would not have consented to anything that you didn't think, feel, and know from the highest perspective would help you to become your greatest version. This is a journey of magnificence, of brilliance, of amazing experience and possibility. And taking it on has been a brave endeavor indeed. And the rewards are astronomical from a soul's perspective. So as you move through your deepest challenges or scariest encounters or saddest moments, we want you to know that that extremeness in feeling, it is so valuable to the soul to really understand the depth of possibility of experience and feeling, to cultivate that compassion for self and others, and ultimately allow the reunification of consciousness back into oneness, into full expression of that oneness. And it is honorable, it is amazing, and it is something that you agreed to and will forever cherish. We want you to know that. The last thing we will leave you off with, as you continue to develop your inner gifts, the gifts that are needed to truly bring the fifth dimension here, trust and patience, the opposite of Amazon, we will say, and many others, you will begin to receive more information about other high frequency states of being that you once experienced. And so that is part of the gifts of this time. As much as there could be turmoil or there could be greatness, there will also be increasing psychic insight as to who you are, as to where you may have been before this earth challenge crossed your path. And so memories of these higher frequency dimensions as they come through may help to inform you on what you're here to birth, on what you're here to create. And now that the CERN interference has been knocked down, you may find that your dreams or that your meditations will bring you to places you've never been before. So we want you to look forward to that, and we want you to use that as a motivation for continuing to cultivate these states in your life. Make your home, make your body, make your being, make your presence feel like the fifth dimension. Make everyone who crosses your path know the love that they are. And that love will always come back to you again and again and again until this spiral process is over and the oneness is complete. We are the Arcturian Council. We are ever so pleased that you have listened to this message, and we will speak to you again at another time. Okay, that was the Arcturian Council with their message of, you just heard it. So, yeah. So, that's all for now. I will share that I had the experience of going to the place I was before I came into this journey. And I'm not going to share about it right now. No, I will. I'll share. So I was in a aerial sound bath, aerial yoga sound bath. I'm still coming out of their energies a little bit. And I went into the silk, and one of the parts of the class, it was a gentle class, is you lay in the silk and you feel like you're back in the womb. It's amazing. It's my favorite part, and I could just lay in that silk all day and sleep in it. And I was immediately flashed, and I wasn't like even that grounded or centered. I had a busy day. I immediately flashed to this place. It was a planet that I was on, and it was very, there was no one around, but it was very full in energy. I didn't feel lonely or anything, but it was me and my dad there. And the planet had this blue and pink sparkly energy. And I was up on a hill and I was looking down. It was just it was almost like a smaller earth where I'm sitting here and then I could see the curve, and then my house was right here. And I was kind of sitting on a fence, but it was very ethereal. So, it was physical, but it was ethereal. So everything was kind of vibrating, I would say, and this pink and blue is just present all over, and the sky was dark, but again, it was a very light place. It was dark and gentle, but it was so beautiful. And I didn't see our forms, but it was me and my dad there, and the call came out. This was the meditation, the imagery that I got, the little video that played. The call had come out to come to Earth, and me and my dad were working on something there, for our souls, whatever our souls were wanting to experience. And my soul felt called to answer, and my dad's did not. He sort of warned me of what would be a part of this experience and how intense it would be. But I felt like I was meant to go, and he understood that. And then because I decided to go, he also agreed to come. And the words I got was I'll provide you cover for the first part, but then you'll be on your own. And we didn't use words, which I've had that experience before in telepathic communication. I had telepathic communication with my grandfather, who had crossed over 2 nights before my grandmother died, when I was in New Zealand at the place where the New Zealanders believe that the souls leave the earth. And I went there and I went into this meditation. Really, I was just sitting at the beach looking at the ocean. And my grandfather came through, and without words, we had this conversation. It was the same thing with my dad. There wasn't words, but it was just this exchange of energy. it's going to be crazy. And then I was like, yeah, but my soul, I could see my soul like lighting up, like I'm meant to do this. And maybe even I'm hearing now that being on that planet was preparing me to come here for this experience, sort of like a graduation. And then it's been very interesting because the sky here has been really smoky from the Canadian wildfires. And I've done surf lessons the past 2 mornings in the morning, and you see the sun and it's like all covered in smoke. So it just has this like pink. And this morning I look at the water and there's like a pink reflection in the water, which is exactly the sparkles that I was seeing in that other world I was in. It was like the same color, like that bright pink. And even like the dark sky, the smoky dark sky, like kind of, although it was definitely like a black sky, but as soon as I saw it, it flashed me back. And I wrote down about the place, but it hasn't been staying in my consciousness, in my, waking consciousness. So just, there's a lot of overlap, these timelines coming together. There's going to be a lot of new information coming. We're going to understand ourselves a lot more. And so it's not all going to come at once, but we're going to keep getting the next carrot and the next stick. And there's a lot more beauty coming. So I just want you all to know that. The guides are, bringing that through. I'm still very much feeling them. They're saying, too, that they're going to really be able to be a lot more present for each and every one of us. And they're really looking forward to that experience, to that oneness, because that's truly what we're doing here. My guides, they're just a more highly evolved aspect of me. And I'm sort of like back in time, in the past, in an unevolved state. And there, when I'm channeling them, I'm just bringing through the evolutionary from the highest perspective that I can possibly bring through. And just know that each and every one of you have these guides, whether you channel them the way I do or not. They're 100% here. Call them in these extreme circumstances, because from what I've been feeling, from if you listen to geophysicist Stefan Burns or anyone else out there, there is a lot more extreme weather coming, but it's only going to be for support. It's only going to be for our highest interference. And so, you may be called, if you are feeling fear, if you are feeling any kind of upset, to, as I was, like, my soul was like, my consciousness was like, I was starting to get like out of body, was to just bring it down and to ground the energy. And I think that's kind of what was happening in that tornado, was like it's like almost like all this soul energy was being lifted up and like swirled around to get people into their right place, like instead of physically picking people up and throwing them into the right place, as would be really intense here. Although I have had sort of images and dreams that I may actually have to experience something like that at some point, but it would be like a magical experience, not a scary one. And I think that's part of these powers that the guides are talking about. Like right now, if a tornado come and picked us up, like we would just literally be freaking out. But in the future, in our highest expression, like a tornado may end up like literally being like an energy that just lifts us up and puts us where we need to be. The kind of quick manifestation we've all wanted through this ascension process, but that's the kind of thing I don't think we're ready for, obviously, unless you feel ready to be picked up by a tornado. And I'm not saying that's the only example, but I mean, that's the kind of power we have as God beings embodied. We really have the opportunity, we really have the power to utilize any energy. Like I always had this image of like using waves as transportation. Like imagine you could catch a wave and it would like take you wherever you needed to go. Like you could travel by the waves. And I guess boats kind of do that, but like my image would be more like you're literally like surfing a wave, like I would surf a wave to get to like ship bottom or something, and then I'd get out. And yeah, so I feel like that's the kind of magic that is coming, but I don't think we have the consciousness yet to accept that. Like, I think that would freak us out. And a lot of stuff freaks us out, right? Because I think a lot of that kind of stuff has had such a dark cover on it, but now that quantum interference is being pulled back, that dark cover is really being pulled back. And so everything that's happening is in the light. And that's all you need to know. And I know that's what the guide said, and I'm still kind of channeling a bit here now, but they just really want you to know that everything's okay, and that, everything that's happening is just trying to put you where you need to be. And they're doing it softly now, and they're going to continue to be soft until we show them, like, I fully trust. Like, I'm standing next to a tornado, and I'm like, okay, I'm here and I trust you. And you're really just putting trust in your higher self, because we planned this. We planned this whole process. We knew free will would be involved. But ultimately, because we're God beings, nothing can shift our will unless we allow its influence. And I think that's the shadow government in our mind they're talking about. It's only when we're distorted that we can be manipulated, that we can lose our energy and deplete ourselves, or widen our energy so much that it's just outrageous. And so we're just here to find the balance within our own fields. What do we need? What do we really want to do? And most importantly, what are we here to birth? So that's our message. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want a private channeling or a private energy session, or want to do some coaching with me, I have a few spots available right now for coaching clients. Otherwise, I love you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.